My name is Haley Reed, and what you're about to hear is the real story behind my brother Gavin's biggest lie, one that nearly destroyed everything Grandpa left behind. It was Christmas night at my parents' house. The living room was alive with energy after dinner, everyone relaxed and happy. Gavin suddenly stood up, champagne glass raised high, that familiar confident smile on his face, as he waited for the room to go quiet. "Big announcement, everyone," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "I'm playing a stock on the exchange. Profit is basically guaranteed, easy as flipping a switch." The family exploded with excitement. Dad laughed loudly and gave him a firm pat on the back. Mom looked at him like he'd just secured our future. Autumn leaned in closer, eyes sparkling, firing off questions about the details and how big the returns would be. Gavin kept rolling, smooth and convincing. "It's an insider opportunity tied to Grandpa's old company, the one we all wrote off years ago. I've got exclusive access. Just a few quarters, and this thing is going to skyrocket. Easy money, no doubt about it." He painted the picture perfectly, huge gains coming fast, smart timing, how he was finally making something big happen. Everyone nodded, cheered, hung on every word like he was the family's financial hero. I sat quietly on the corner of the sofa, wine glass untouched, just smiling along with them. But one thing he said stopped me cold: the specific revenue number he casually dropped for the most recent quarter. It was wrong. Not close. Completely off. And that exact number. Only someone with full access to the confidential shareholder reports would even know it existed. Someone like me. Because 5 years ago, I quietly bought controlling shares in that company. No big family reveal, no texts or celebrations, just legal records with my name on them. Gavin had no clue. If you've ever sat through a family gathering where someone was bragging about money they had no right to and getting all the praise for it, drop a comment below. Has something like this happened to you? Share your experience, even anonymously, because what happened next changed everything. Let me take you back to where it all started, with Grandpa and the company he built from the ground up, brick by brick, deal by deal. Grandpa founded Reed Energy Components in 1978, starting in a rented warehouse on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio. He saw the future in renewable energy, early focusing on custom parts for wind turbines and solar inverters, when most people still thought it was niche. Those first years were tough, long nights in the shop, borrowing against the house, driving across the Midwest to pitch to utility companies. But by the mid-'80s, things took off. Major contracts came in from wind farms in Iowa and Minnesota, then solar installations in California. Revenue climbed steadily, hitting $10 million by 1990, then 20 by the late 90s. The workforce grew to over 200, spread across a new facility in the industrial park. Grandpa appeared in trade journals, spoke at conferences, always emphasizing quality American manufacturing. He refused several buyout offers from bigger conglomerates, saying he wanted to keep it in the family, something we could all be proud of one day. Holidays at his house were filled with stories of close calls and big wins, employees stopping by with thank you notes, the sense that this was more than a business, it was a legacy. But everything shifted after his death 6 years ago. He was 78. Still coming into the office most days, when a massive heart attack took him in the parking lot. The funeral was packed, former workers, suppliers, even competitors paying respects. In the weeks that followed, the estate attorney laid out the will at Mom and Dad's dining table in their suburban home outside Chicago. Grandpa had divided his majority stake equally among his 4 grandchildren: me, Autumn, Gavin, and our cousin, who had already cashed out years earlier. Mom inherited a smaller portion as well. The rest went to trusts for charity and employee pensions. The problem was the timing. The renewable sector was in a slump, cheap Chinese imports flooding the market, federal incentives delayed key clients, cutting budgets. Quarterly filings showed mounting losses, debt piling up from expansion loans Grandpa had taken. The stock listed on the OTC market as REKP had dropped from a high of $15 a share to barely $150. Dad spread the reports across the table that night. "This isn't sustainable," he said, voice heavy. "We're not investors. We don't have time to watch this every day." Mom agreed immediately. "It's too volatile. I'd rather have cash in a high-yield savings or treasuries, something safe we can count on for retirement." Autumn, visiting from Denver where she worked in digital marketing, nodded. "I'm not flying back for shareholder meetings. It's too much hassle for something losing money." Gavin shrugged, scrolling his phone. "Whatever. Just get me my cut. I could use it for a new car." I sat there listening, heart sinking. I saw potential others didn't. The patents were still valuable. The brand had recognition in the industry, and green energy mandates were coming. But I kept quiet at first, not wanting to push. Over the following months, I approached them individually. I started with Mom and Dad over coffee one weekend. I explained my view calmly, offered to buy their shares at the current appraised value, no discounts, full transparency through an independent valuation. They hesitated at first, worried about taxes, but ultimately signed. It felt like relief for them, turning paper losses into actual money they could see in their accounts. Autumn was easier. During a video call, she laughed about not understanding balance sheets anyway. "Take it, Haley, you're the one who actually cares about this stuff." Her transfer went through quickly. Gavin dragged his feet longest. He sold most of what he inherited but held back roughly 8%, grinning in our one phone conversation about it. "Gotta keep a little skin in the game, right, for Grandpa. Who knows, might hit big one day." He never asked for updates after that, just occasional texts joking about his retirement fund. By early the next year, the paperwork was complete. I crossed the 51% threshold, official controlling shareholder. The SEC filings reflected the changes quietly. No headlines, no family email blast. I relocated permanently to downtown Chicago for better access to advisors, kept my day job in software project management for steady income, and began the real work. I recruited a new CEO from a competitor, someone with supply chain expertise and contacts in emerging markets. We closed underperforming lines, renegotiated supplier terms, invested in efficiency upgrades at the Cleveland plant. It wasn't overnight success. The first year still showed red ink as we cleared inventory. But by the second break, even arrived. New orders trickled in from offshore wind projects, then flooded with policy changes favoring domestic manufacturing. Earnings flipped positive, debt reduced, and the stock edged upward to $3, then $4, stabilizing around $5 recently. Dividends started flowing, small but consistent. I reinvested most built reserves, lived in a modest one-bedroom with views of the lake, drove the same car for years. Family gatherings came and went. When the company came up, I'd change the subject or give vague positives. They assumed it was limping along, and I never corrected them. Gavin mentioned his remaining shares now and then, always with a wink, like he had some secret edge. No one challenged it. Looking back, that silence felt like protection, shielding Grandpa's creation from indifference. I never imagined it would become the perfect cover for something much darker. The crumpled wrapping paper covered nearly every inch of the carpet by the time the gifts were all opened. Plates of cookies and half-empty mugs sat on side tables, and the conversation had shifted back to Gavin's big reveal. He had taken over the big screen TV, pulling up charts on his phone that he mirrored to show projected price targets and volume spikes. He paced a little as he talked energy high. "The real catalyst is coming from these new partnerships I can't name yet," he said, lowering his voice like he was sharing classified information. "But trust me, once they announce, this stock is going parabolic. We're talking triple-digit gains in months, not years." Dad leaned back in his recliner, arms crossed but smiling. "Sounds like you've done your homework, son. Proud of you for taking initiative." Mom passed around a tray of peppermint bark, eyes shining. "It's about time something good came from that old company. Your grandpa would be thrilled seeing you turn it around." Autumn sat cross-legged on the floor, phone in hand, scrolling through the ticker's recent filings she'd just looked up. The volume's picking up already. Look at these candles' classic accumulation pattern. Gavin nodded enthusiastically, feeding off their reactions. Exactly. Smart money's moving in quietly, and because of my position, I can get people in early at the ground floor pricing. The room buzzed with questions. Dad asked about entry points. Mom wondered if it was safe for retirement accounts. Autumn wanted to know about options plays. Gavin answered each one confidently, throwing in terms like asymmetric risk-reward and catalyst calendar that made him sound like a pro. I remained in my spot on the couch, legs tucked under me, observing the whole scene. It was fascinating how easily he held their attention, how readily they bought into the vision he painted. Then my phone buzzed against my thigh. I pulled it out discreetly, angling the screen away from curious eyes. A message from an unfamiliar number, Haley Reed. "This is Spencer Moss. Gavin reached out about an exclusive opportunity in RECP stock, said you handle family investments. He sent docs and I wired the initial deposit to lock in my allocation. Can you verify the terms? Thanks." Attached were screenshots, a term sheet, promising preferred shares at a discount, references to material, non-public information, and a wire confirmation for $25,000. My grip tightened on the phone. Preferred allocation based on insider info. Deposit to secure position. Classic hallmarks of an illegal private placement scam. Across the room, Gavin was laughing at something Dad said, gesturing widely about moonshot potential. I waited for the perfect moment when Mom was refilling coffee, and Autumn was showing Dad a meme on her phone. Then I spoke up lightly, as if genuinely curious. "Gavin, I'm a little lost on the numbers. Could you break down that last quarterly report for Mom and Dad? The one with the big revenue beat you mentioned earlier. I want to follow along better." He turned toward me, smile still in place, but faltering for a fraction of a second. "Oh yeah, of course. Revenue came in strong, up significantly from guidance, like 22% quarter over quarter if I remember right. That's what has analysts revising targets. But I knew the actual number was closer to 9%, and it wasn't the kind of beat that moved needles dramatically." He quickly pivoted, adding layers about upcoming earnings calls and analyst upgrades to cover the slip. Dad chuckled. "See, Haley? Your brother's on top of this stuff?" Mom patted my knee gently. "Don't worry if it's over your head, honey. Gavin's handling it great." Autumn shot me a playful look. "Yeah, no need to be jealous just because he's out there making moves while the rest of us play it safe." The word jealous landed like a slap, though delivered with a smile. They all laughed it off, turning back to Gavin for more details on timing the exit. Someone suggested pulling up old photos from Grandpa's company picnics, and the conversation drifted to memories of holiday parties at the plant, employees bringing kids, Grandpa in his Santa hat, handing out bonuses. I nodded along, forcing smiles at the right moments, but my mind was racing. Spencer Moss's message sat unanswered on my screen. This wasn't harmless bragging anymore. It was active deception, and my family was eating it up. The quiet suburban cafe on the edge of Oak Park felt like the right place for this conversation. Neutral, low-key, far enough from downtown bustle but easy to reach from the highways. I arrived a few minutes early, chose a corner table away from the window, ordered a black coffee, and waited. Spencer Moss walked in right on time, mid-40s, dressed in business casual khakis, buttoned down, carrying a leather portfolio. He spotted me from the description I'd given and came over, extending a hand. "Thanks for meeting me, Ms. Reed. Haley, right? I appreciate you taking the time." We shook hands and he sat down, ordering tea when the barista came by. He looked anxious but composed, like someone used to deals but sensing this one going sideways. He started without preamble, pulling out printed emails and his phone to show screenshots. "Gavin added me to an old family group chat on Facebook a couple months back, said he was cleaning it up, and noticed I was a mutual friend through a cousin or something. Then he messaged me privately. Told me he still held shares in the family company RECP and had access to material information not public yet." Spencer scrolled to the first direct message. Gavin had written about major contracts in the pipeline and strategic partnerships that would send the stock soaring. He said because of his position, he could get select investors in early at a discounted allocation before any announcement. I nodded, encouraging him to continue keeping my expression neutral. He sent a term sheet. Spencer went on sliding a printed copy across the table. It looked professional letterhead with the company logo, promises of preferred shares, references to confidential memorandum, and Rule 506 exemption for private placement. I asked for proof of authority, and he provided what looked like a proxy letter signed by family members authorizing him to represent holdings. The signature line caught my eye immediately, my name forged at the bottom, along with others that appeared copied. Spencer leaned in. It seemed legit. I'm in commercial real estate financing, so I know these opportunities come up in small caps. I wired $25,000 as the initial deposit to hold my spot, supposed to go toward a larger commitment once the full docs were ready. But then, the delays started. First, it was waiting for legal review, then board approval. Now he's not responding to my last 3 messages asking for the final agreement, or even a refund option. He rubbed his temple. I started digging on my own checked Edgar filings, nothing new. Called a contact at a brokerage. They said no chatter about RECP. That's when I texted you from the family chat list. I asked questions carefully: what exact dates on the wires, which bank account the deposit went to, any voice calls or just text. He shared everything openly, forwarding threads showing bank statements with the outgoing transfer. All the while, I gave nothing away about my role. This sounds serious, I said. Have you considered involving authorities yet? Not yet. I wanted to confirm with someone in the family first. Gavin made it sound like you all were on board. We talked for nearly an hour. He described his background: married, 2 kids in college, saving for retirement, thought this was a safe, family-tied play. The disappointment in his voice was real, mixed with self-reproach for not verifying sooner. When we parted, I promised to look into it and get back to him soon. Driving home through the tree-lined streets, mind racing, I pulled over at a park to think. First thing, I logged into the broker portal on my phone, accessed the shareholder registry. Gavin's name was still there, that small block of shares he never sold. Then I called Walter Ives from the car, putting him on speaker as I sat watching joggers pass. Walter, it's Haley. I need you to pull the latest proxy records and authorization filings for RECP. Something's off. He didn't waste time. Gimme the details. I summarized the term sheet description, the forged signature, the deposit. That's potential 10b-5 violation right there, misrepresentation in connection with securities sale, and if he used interstate wires, federal jurisdiction. We discussed next steps, quietly. Document everything, preserve communications, consider a cease and desist. By the time I hung up, doubt had turned to certainty. Gavin hadn't just bragged. He had crossed into criminal territory. And Spencer was only the first victim I knew about. I chose the neighborhood park for a reason. It was neutral ground, public enough to keep things civil, but private enough for a real conversation. The paths were lined with mature oak benches scattered along the lakefront trail, and on a crisp Saturday morning there were enough runners and dog owners to make it feel ordinary. I texted Gavin the night before, keeping it casual: coffee at the park kiosk, quick sibling catch-up. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and, sounds good. He arrived in gray sweatpants and a hoodie, wireless earbuds dangling around his neck, carrying a to-go cup he'd grabbed on the way. We found an empty bench facing the water, far from the kids' playground where families were gathering. I wasted no time easing in. Gavin, I heard from someone named Spencer Moss. He reached out about an investment discussion you two had. My brother sipped his coffee, eyebrows lifting slightly. Spencer. Yeah, he's from that old Facebook group. Why, what did he say? That you offered him a special opportunity in RECP shares. Exclusive access, something about insider advantages. He mentioned sending a deposit to secure it. Gavin set his cup down, leaning forward with elbows on knees. It's not what he's making it sound like. I was just giving friendly guidance, sharing what I know about the company since I still hold some shares. He got excited and sent money to show seriousness. That's on him. I kept my voice steady. He showed me emails with term sheets, references to non-public details, promises of preferred pricing. He shook his head, a short laugh escaping. Market hype gets people carried away. I told him things were looking up, but nothing guaranteed. The deposit was his idea to lock in if it moved fast. But he's waiting for official contracts now or his money back. Says communication stopped. Gavin's tone sharpened a touch. Things take time. Supply chain reports are delayed, partnerships still negotiating. Volatility happens. If he's impatient, I'll refund him. Simple. I watched a pair of geese land on the lake, buying a moment. This isn't just impatience. Promising access based on inside info crosses lines. Legal lines. He rolled his eyes. Come on, Haley, it's family company stuff. No one's filing complaints over a little enthusiasm. I didn't mention the forged proxy or registry confirmation yet. Stop it now. Return the deposit, cut contact, before it turns into something you can't fix. He stood up, stretching. You're blowing this out of proportion. I'll sort it out. Relax. We parted with a quick side hug, him heading off for his run, me walking the long way home. The apartment felt quieter than usual when I got back. I was unloading the farmer's market bag, fresh bread, apples, cheese, when my phone rang with Mom's ringtone. Haley, we need to talk. She started, voice tight. Gavin just told us you ambushed him about some investment misunderstanding. Before I could explain, Autumn's text thread blew up, a long paragraph about how I was twisting a harmless favor into an attack. How jealous I must be of Gavin finally taking charge while I sat on the sidelines. Dad joined the call on speaker. This is ridiculous. Your brother is trying to make something happen, and you're sabotaging it over nothing. Mom added, it's still holiday season. Keep family peace. Let Gavin handle his own business. The messages kept coming, Autumn sending voice notes about loyalty, Mom following up with, we're disappointed. Dad's final text, drop it. He's your brother. I set the phone face down on the counter, hands shaking slightly as I put away groceries. They had swallowed his story whole, without question, without asking my side. The divide I'd sensed for years suddenly felt permanent. Spencer's messages arrived in clusters, now each one carrying more urgency than the last. He described checking his bank app daily for any sign of refund, refreshing email for responses that never came. Gavin had gone completely silent. No excuses, no updates, just radio quiet. One late evening, Spencer phoned me again, voice tight with worry. Haley, I've given him every chance. My wife is furious. This was money set aside for our son's graduate school fund. I can't wait anymore. I understood completely. Filing with the SEC is the right move. Their tip portal is designed for exactly this, suspected fraud in securities transactions. He agreed without hesitation. We scheduled a video call the next night to prepare everything together. On screen, Spencer shared his folder of evidence, the full thread from the initial outreach in the old family group chat, screenshots of Gavin's promises about material developments and guaranteed allocation, the term sheet PDF with its professional-looking formatting, and the bank transfer confirmation showing the $25,000 leaving his account. We logged into the SEC's tips, complaints, and referrals portal separately, but coordinated what to include. Spencer entered as the primary complainant, attaching all his files. I submitted a supporting statement from my perspective as a major shareholder, highlighting the inaccuracies in Gavin's representations about company status and authority. The form asked for details on potential violations, misrepresentation, omission of facts, use of interstate communications. We checked every relevant box, requested anonymity where possible, and hit submit. The acknowledgement email came within hours, assigned case number with instructions to preserve all records. Agent Maria Fuentes contacted us soon after. Her email from the Chicago regional office was straightforward separate interviews to ensure independent accounts. My session with her was over secure phone line. She introduced herself as a senior investigator with 15 years in enforcement. Questions came precisely when I first learned of the offer's specific claims Gavin made in my presence, my ownership stake, and how it was acquired, any direct warnings I'd given. I walked her through the timeline, carefully providing the shareholder ledger excerpts Walter had certified. The representations about insider access and preferential terms were false, I explained. No such program existed, and the authority documents were not authentic. She probed deeper on the forged proxy. Did you authorize any representation on your behalf? Absolutely not. What? Spencer's interview covered his side, the outreach method, payment instructions, subsequent delays. Agent Fuentes thanked us both, saying the information aligned strongly with preliminary checks against Edgar filings and broker records. The warrant execution followed swiftly. Local deputies accompanied by SEC forensic specialists arrived at Gavin's apartment building in Naperville early one morning. They knocked, presented the search warrant signed by a federal magistrate, and entered. Gavin was home, still in sleep clothes, stunned as officers secured the premises. They seized his primary laptop from the desk, the iPhone on the charger, 2 external hard drives from a drawer, and a folder of printed bank statements he tried to grab. The digital imaging happened on site to preserve chain of custody. Analysts began processing immediately. The discoveries unfolded over days. Beyond Spencer's case, deleted but recoverable chat logs revealed 2 additional targets. One was a former colleague from Gavin's short stint in sales, the other a college friend he'd reconnected with online. Similar scripts, boasts about family ties giving edge, customized term sheets, promising discounted blocks, urgent calls to act now before public announcement. Both had sent funds, $18,000 and $29,000, to the same LLC account. The shell company, registered under Gavin's name with a mailbox address in a strip mall, had no employees, no website, no activity beyond receiving those wires and dispersing to his personal cards. Bank records pulled under subpoena showed the money cycle deposits hitting the LLC, quick transfers to cover credit card minimums, luxury purchases like designer clothes and electronics, then more debt accruing. Personal loan apps on his phone revealed applications denied for high existing balances, total unsecured debt approaching $120,000. Calendar entries noted follow-up pitches, reminders for refund excuses, even searches for how to delete permanently from iCloud. The motive crystallized: mounting financial pressure driving increasingly risky lies. Agent Fuentes called with a brief update. The pattern is clear. Multiple victims, deceptive instruments, interstate wires. This supports both civil and criminal referrals. I listened, the weight of it settling. Gavin's web had ensnared more than I'd realized, and the unraveling had only begun. The indictment hit the federal docket without warning, listing Gavin Reed as defendant in United States v. Reed. Counts included securities fraud for deceptive practices in offering RECP shares, wire fraud for using electronic transfers to execute the scheme, and aggravated identity theft for forging my signature on authorization documents. The U.S. attorney painted a picture of calculated deception spanning months, targeting vulnerable acquaintances with promises of exclusive gains. The initial appearance happened in the Everett McKinley Dirksen United States Courthouse, a towering building in the Loop, where federal cases moved with quiet efficiency. I sat in the public gallery watching Gavin brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front, escorted by marshals. His public defender requested release on personal recognizance, arguing ties to the community and no prior record. The prosecutor countered with evidence of financial desperation and potential tampering, deleted files recovered during the search. The judge ordered detention pending trial, citing risk of further obstruction. Pre-trial motions dragged through spring. Discovery packets arrived thick thousands of pages from forensic reports, victim depositions, bank subpoenas. Gavin's lawyer filed for suppression of certain digital evidence claiming overreach in the warrant scope, but the judge denied it after hearings. I testified in a closed session about my ownership, the unauthorized use of my name, the complete lack of any legitimate offering. The prosecutor asked about family dynamics, whether I'd suspected earlier. I answered honestly but sparingly. Gavin's demeanor shifted in court appearances. The early ones showed defiance, straight posture, quick glances at supporters. But as evidence mounted, he slumped. More avoided eye contact, whispered longer with counsel. The plea negotiations intensified when trial date approached. His attorney pushed for reduction, offering cooperation in identifying any accomplices, though there were none. The government wanted restitution and acceptance of responsibility. The change of plea hearing was scheduled on a humid summer morning. Gavin entered in a borrowed suit tie, loose face, pale under fluorescent lights. The courtroom was half empty, just legal teams, a few reporters, me in the back. The judge went through the litany. Do you understand that by pleading guilty you waive your right to trial? Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand the maximum penalties? Yes. The prosecutor summarized the agreed facts. Gavin knowingly made false statements about material, non-public information, induced investments through deception, used forged documents bearing my signature, routed funds for personal benefit. Gavin affirmed each point, voice cracking on the last. When asked if he wished to speak, he paused, then said quietly, I made terrible choices under pressure. I hurt people who trusted me. I'm sorry. The sentence followed weeks later. Probation for 24 months, intensive supervision, home confinement with ankle monitor, the first 6 mandatory counseling for financial decision-making, full restitution ordered joint, and several with any civil judgments. Bankruptcy filing became inevitable. Chapter 7 Petition listed assets, minimal car, some furniture, retirement account partially exempt, creditors including victims lined up for the little that remained. The SEC civil action ran parallel, culminating in a consent judgment, permanent bar from associating with any broker-dealer or investment advisor, no future securities activity without court approval. Word spread through old circles. Mutual friends unfollowed on social media. Job applications returned with polite rejections once background checks ran. The charming brother who commanded attention at holidays became someone people avoided mentioning. His fall was complete. No more bravado, no more promises. Just consequences, cold and lasting. The news of the plea and bankruptcy filing spread through the family like wildfire, though no one spoke to me directly at first. A group text from Mom appeared one evening, addressed to everyone except Gavin. After everything that's happened, we can no longer consider Gavin part of this family. He has brought shame on all of us. Please respect our decision to move forward without him. Autumn followed with a longer message quoting Bible verses about forgiveness, but making clear the door was closed. Dad sent a simple, agreed. I read them in silence, feeling the finality settle. But the blame didn't stop with my brother. The next wave came, aimed at me. Mom called late one night, voice thick with emotion. Haley, how could you stay quiet all that time and then report him? You could have warned us, talked him down. Instead, you let it get this far and pushed your own brother into ruin. Autumn's texts were sharper. You always acted superior with your quiet way. But silence isn't strength, it's cowardice. You destroyed him because you couldn't stand him succeeding where you played it safe. Dad emailed formally, we are heartbroken. Gavin made mistakes under pressure, but family protects family. Your actions forced this outcome. The messages tapered off after that, accusations giving way to cold distance. No more holiday invitations at first, then one tentative call from Mom about the monthly Sunday dinner tradition they'd kept for decades. Everyone will be here, she said, tone careful. It would mean a lot if you came. I paused, looking out my window at the city lights. Thank you for asking, Mom, but I think it's best if I sit this one out. She didn't push just a soft okay before hanging up. I never attended another gathering. Birthdays passed with generic cards. No more shared photos in the group chat. The rift widened into permanent separation. Meanwhile, the company thrived in ways Grandpa could only have dreamed. The CEO I'd hired secured major supply agreements with utility-scale solar projects across the Southwest and new wind developments in the Great Plains. Revenue doubled in 2 years, margins improved with efficient production lines. The stock climbed steadily, $10, then $15, drawing analyst coverage for the first time in decades. Quarterly board calls brought good news, consistently expanded facilities, key hires, innovation patents filed. Dividends grew substantial. I reinvested most diversified, quietly built security that felt earned. Life in the city suited me, walks along the lakefront trail, weekends at museums, dinners with colleagues who valued substance over flash. My apartment remained simple, bookshelves full, no need for show. Grandpa's legacy was safe, growing respected again in the industry. I thought often about the cost. The brother I'd grown up with, shared holidays, inside jokes, childhood adventures, was gone, replaced by someone capable of calculated betrayal. The parents who'd raised us chose sides in a way that revealed priorities I'd always suspected, but never faced directly. Autumn's loyalty to image over truth sealed the fracture. One quiet evening, reviewing the latest earnings release, I realized the peace I'd found wasn't accidental. It came from choices, protecting what mattered, refusing to enable lies, drawing boundaries even when it hurt. Family isn't always blood. It's mutual respect. Honesty, shared values. Mine had shown where theirs lay. I chose a different path forward, alone, but whole. Looking back on that Christmas night when it all began, I understand now. Silence isn't weakness when it's backed by principle. Sometimes the quietest victories, the ones no one applauds, are the most complete. Because they leave you free. If this story taught me anything, it's that protecting your integrity and legacy is worth any price, even when the price is family.